Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of our new podcast brought to you by the Salem-Roanoke County Chamber and Red Velocity. My name is Amanda Livingston, and I'm president of the Chamber and your host for this monthly podcast where we'll feature leaders in our community. And today, I'm so excited to have Jerry Adams with us. He is the fearless leader of Steel Dynamics based in Roanoke. Welcome, Jerry. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a great privilege. Glad to be here. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. And why don't we just start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I have an interesting start. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, grew up on a small farm in south central Pennsylvania. And my parents didn't have a whole lot of money. The first year that we were there, we took baths in the creek. We lived in one house. My dad was remodeling a 250-year-old house. And, every day we would sleep on cots. We'd wake up next morning, fold up the cots, put them next to the wall so that we had enough room because we were living in just one room. So that's how we started. And my dad worked himself from there to, he was very successful in his career. But growing up that way, we had horses, we had a couple cows, we had some, small farm there, a lot of work. And so I learned a lot of things that I found later. They were foundational values that stayed with me my whole career.
Like what?
Hard work, there was always work to be done. One of the lessons, you and I had this conversation before about doing the hard things first. So my dad would always talk about, boys, Saturday we're going to wake up, we got to cut some wood, we got to work on the horse stalls. We have some work that we got to get done. After we get the work done, you can go do whatever you want to do. And usually for my brother and I, we'd be out in the woods doing all kinds of crazy things. So, And so he instilled that in us, get the hard things done first. One day, he assigned me, this was over the summer, that I was supposed to mow the grass. And we had several acres of grass to mow. And, as things happened, I got tied up in doing things that I wanted to do. And next thing I know, my dad's coming home from work and the grass isn't mowed.
Uh-oh.
So my dad walks up to me and he said, you didn't get time to mow the grass? And I said, well, I'll get it right now. And he said, no, don't bother. Go in and eat. So I went in to eat and I heard the mower start. And my dad never ate. He came home from work and he worked hard. He came home from work and he mowed grass. And it took like 3 hours to mow our grass. He mowed grass for 3 hours without eating or anything.
You must have felt horrible.
And I went out twice and said, Dad, let me do it. And he's like, I got it. And he mowed the grass. That's when I really learned that lesson. So from then on, for me, it was, you get the hard work done first. And that really helped me later as a leader because my approach to things was, we always have those things that happen at work, like we have a conversation that we know we need to have, but it's a difficult conversation. We have an issue that we need to address, and we know it's a difficult issue to address. That built this in me that, I didn't put those things on the back burner. I would go into work, I would schedule them first, I would get the hard things done first. And that really helped me a lot as a leader because I've observed a lot of people avoid the difficult things and tend to go to work and do the things that they love.
Sure.
And sometimes those difficult things never get addressed.
Sure.
And so that helped me in my career because I learned how to address the difficult things.
Sure.
And my dad was a good leader. He dug himself out of that hole, that financial hole, and did really well for himself. But he was a good leader and he was a good coach. And so I didn't realize that he was teaching me leadership lessons as I was growing up. And so when I went out and started in the workplace, I was doing things and I didn't really see it as leadership. I just saw it as this is how you're supposed to work. You know, he would teach us, if there's something that needs to be done, do it. Mm-hmm. Don't wait around. Don't ask questions. If you can do it, just do it. Get it done. So when I went out into the workforce, you know, there were two things that surprised me. One, I thought everybody worked like my dad. Mm-hmm. And I had a hard time keeping up with my dad working around a farm. And so when I got into work, I just expected, like, I'm going to have a hard time keeping up with everybody. And so, you know, that's when I realized, well, not everybody does work that way. And, you know, so that was one of the things that, you know, one of many values that he instilled in me that stayed with me my whole career. Yeah.
I remember when I first started working, when I was in high school, I was waitressing and I would, you know, ask, okay, what do I do? And the lady would tell me, this is what you do. And then I'd complete the task and I'd say, okay, well, what next? And so that happened a few times. And then she finally said, listen, Amanda, you need to look and see what needs to be done. And I thought, wow, I definitely learned from that. That was for sure.
Yeah, I think that initiative is, you know, even today I look for that. When we're hiring people, I look for people that have a history. You know, you try to interview in ways that they can give you examples of, you know, times where they took initiative. They saw something that needed to be done. They didn't look around for somebody else to do it. They did it. Sure. And that's the way I did work because of what was instilled in me from my dad. And people took notice of that, you know, and it honestly surprised me because I really didn't see it as anything special. Mm-hmm. You know, when I went out to work, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, you know, what advice do you have for me? He said, two things. Tell the truth, even when it hurts. And do the job you're being paid to do and do it to the best of your ability. He said, if you do those two things, you will be a superstar. And I remember hearing that and I'm like, is that it? You know, but when I got out and started working, I realized that's not always easy. It's not always easy to tell the truth. You know, when you're sitting in a meeting and a bunch of people have opinions and your opinion differs, it's a lot easier to just not say or agree with everybody else. Sure. It's more difficult to be the one that speaks up and says, hang on a second, what about this? You know, and then, you know, those days where, you know, you come into work and you're not feeling good or something's not going well or whatever, it's not always easy to do the best.
Your job, yeah.
You know, and just do your job. And it's amazing that simple advice, it's just, you know, it was great advice.
Well, you have such an incredible career. And the crazy thing is you started out on the floor of a steel mill and now you run a whole division. You have several hundred people that report to you. But you started on the floor. Tell me, how do you get from being on the floor to running the whole thing?
Well, so I have an associate's degree in electrical technology, and so like a electrical engineering associate's. And I started in maintenance, and so I rotated shifts. I was, you know, working round the clock for 10 years. I learned the mechanical side also when I was at work. I took special courses and things that they had to offer, and so I learned the mechanical side also. And then I was doing a project one time where we were putting a new control system in a rolling mill. And I wanted to learn how to roll because I thought I need to understand the process so that when I do my job of designing the control or implementing the controls, that I understand what it is that we're trying to do here. And so I started to learn the rolling process. I got more and more involved in the operations side. eventually they came to me and asked me if I wanted to be a supervisor. And I had been, I would go to my manager and say, hey, we're having this problem down the floor. I think if you give me the support, I'll get 2 or 3 guys together and we'll tackle that problem and fix it. And I just saw it as we can make it better for all of us, and we can make more money because we got bonus based upon how we ran. So that's all I was doing. And I thought I could do it. And so he would be like, yeah, okay, go ahead. Well, eventually they offered me a supervisor job. And I remember I had this mentor. His name was Luke. He's an older guy. And I went to him and I said, can you believe that they offered me a supervisor job? And he looked at me and he said, well, yeah. And I kind of looked at him and he said, you've been leading. Like these groups and these things that you're doing, he said, you're displaying leadership. I just didn't think of it. I didn't think of it that way. I just felt like I was doing the job that I was supposed to do, doing the things that I was supposed to do. And so that was the first time that I thought, okay. So I became a supervisor. And after doing it for a little while, I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can make a career out of this leadership thing. And so I had been a supervisor for a little while, and then I decided to go back to school and get my bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. So I did that while I was working as a supervisor in a steel mill. And then from there, opportunities would come. And I never, I never saw myself as like I was chasing the next level. It was more like, can I make a difference for the team? And so an opportunity would come up and it would be more influence, So when I was 26 years old, I became a Christian. That was a big part of my life. And that gave me a lot of courage, and it gave me a lot of, strength to do the right thing, no matter what the situation was. And so that really tied into it too, because I had this purpose, and I felt like that I was given some gifts in the area of leadership, not for me, for others. So when, opportunities would come, I looked at it that way. I was like, could I make a difference for this group of people in that role? And so every time that an opportunity came, I saw it as a bigger opportunity to influence things for other people, to help other people win whatever it is that we're trying to do here. That's awesome.
And you just kept getting promoted and promoted.
Yeah, and kept getting opportunities, and every time that I would get to the next level, I would look at the next level and you're closer to it then. So you see more things. And I would say, I think I could do that, But, it's a long way from taking baths in a creek, right? And way back then, the idea that I would be doing what I'm doing today never crossed my mind.
Wow, that's awesome.
Never crossed my mind. Though my dad always would, he would always speak positive things into my life. Like my dad would always, he would tell me things. He'd be like, he said, Jerry, you work. He passed away in 2021.
I'm sorry.
But he would tell me, he'd say, you work hard and you never give up. That's why you will do well.
God, you learned so much from your dad. He was an amazing leader.
I did.
And you were able to actually kind of put all of that together in a book. You have 2 books out, right?
I did, yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. So a lot of lessons learned,
Yeah. Do you, like the people that work for you, do they read your books, or is that kind of covert?
Some of them do. I kind of, I try not to mix the two. I mean, my faith is intertwined with everything I do.
Sure.
And so there's a lot there with that. But, I try not to mix those two, so, but, there's a lot of people that have read it, of course, and have taken some really good things from it, and, and it's not all just, it's not like me teaching people things. It's me sharing mistakes I've made, and ways that I've gotten from making, a place where those mistakes will take you to a better place, and specifically for me, for men, I'm a man, so I understand that side. So I wrote that, because I have a heart for that. I have a heart for guys that have been where I was.
So what's sort of the biggest lesson in the book?
I would say, my faith is the grounding part of the entire thing. And really, overall, I think the main theme out of the whole thing is, take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Body, mind, and spirit. Take care of yourself physically, because they're all intertwined. There's a mental part of being disciplined and consistent on your fitness level. There's a mental part that comes with that. There's also the ability, the discipline side ties into, your spiritual life. And so there's like an intertwined, and for me, all the strength to be disciplined comes from my relationship with God, and so it's all intertwined. And that's really a lot of the theme is that brotherhood, having people in your life that have your best interest at heart, that you're close with, that you can share and be real with, that they can help you through life to be a better person, in my case, to be a better man, to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better leader.
So you work out every day?
Just about every day. I say that because maybe there's a day or two in there somewhere that I missed, but I'm pretty consistent.
And you're pretty impeccable with your eating, your diet.
Yeah, good. I try to watch. Yeah. I try to watch all that stuff. I had a really bad blood test back in 2019, and that opened my eyes to a lot of things. And one of the things was the physical side. And, a lot of times you're prescribed medication to address those things. And I said, no, I don't think we're going to do that. I'm going to try to eat right. I'm going to try to start taking care of myself. I like to enjoy a cigar every once in a while, but besides that, I really try.
I was going to ask, what's your vice?
Yeah.
Your vice is
that's my vice. That's
yeah.
my vice.
Yeah.
I love a good cigar. But I really worked hard, and everything that was wrong in that blood test 6 months later was corrected.
Wow.
Just from eating and taking care of myself. And so that started me down a path of taking care of a lot of things, spiritually, mentally, my relationship with God, all those things, to just become stronger in all those areas, and it's a good thing that happened, because in 2023 I had a really bad accident.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was hit black ice with my son. We were in a truck, and we flipped that truck, and I broke my neck and blew out all my discs from C4 through C7. Broke my jaw, 2 teeth, had to have everything reconstructed in there. And
scary. My gosh.
Yeah, the C4 break was a few thousandths of an inch away from a massive stroke on the spot. And so it was, that is, I was real close to not being here. And the surgeon told me, he said, had you not been working out and had some level of muscle there around your neck, he said, you wouldn't be here. So I tell people, grace of God, because I do believe that, from the blood test back then to working and getting in shape, and then when the accident did happen, there were so many things, you know. I grabbed the center console to try to protect my son and pulled my body over there. And had I not done that, when we went into the bank that crushed the roof, it would have came right in on me and probably ended my life right there. So,
and your son ended up, he
had
fine,
one
right?
little scratch. I used to pray all the time. I still do.
For his safety.
Yeah. And I would say, Lord, if it's ever me or him, make it me.
Yeah.
And so, and it was a hard recovery.
Yeah, you were kind of MIA for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Yeah. Running around with a funny neck brace on for a long time. And it was...
but you're 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm good. I got, out. You know, this finger's a little numb, but nothing major. You know, the surgeon said you're a walking miracle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so let's get back to your career. It's very stressful at times, I would say, right?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how many people, like you've got is it 3 shifts going?
4 crews. We run 24/7. So we're running every day except for like Christmas Day. We shut down for a Christmas party. You know, a lot of times we have Thanksgiving. So there's, you know, a few days out, but other than that, we're running 24/7.
So what keeps you up at night? Well, you've got all that responsibility, all these people. What's your biggest concerns?
Safety. You know, we have a great team, and they've done exceptionally well on safety. Many different times, this division here in Roanoke has led all the divisions in safety. So they've done a tremendous job. Very committed to safety. All my leaders were all, you know, we came from the floor, so we understand that the need for it. And we do exceptionally well. But, you know, I know that we have, you know, close to 500 people, and all it takes is one person to make one bad decision or get into one bad situation, and it changes overnight, you know. And fortunately, we've done a lot to make sure that those conditions don't exist, you know, especially, you know, I started in the industry in 1988, and unfortunately there were fatalities all the time. The mill I started had 10 fatalities in probably 8 years.
Wow.
And it was kind of common, like that's the industry. And so now you can work 30 years without getting hurt. And so we've just come such a long way. But that's the one thing that's...
So what changed? Like, what's the game changer? Like, why?
Really, I think it's about everybody getting on board, you know, because way back at the beginning of my career, and I'm sure prior to that, you know, people would take you into a safety meeting and you'd talk about safety, but then you would go out into the mill. What you talked about in the meeting room and what went on out there were very different. And sometimes, you know, you would have, you know, supervisors and people like that were, you know, directing you to do things that now we would never do. And so we had to make the move from there to, as time went by. And it's one of the reasons why I love Steel Dynamics, because we are so committed to safety. Like, we put our money where our, you know, mouth is. We spend the money. We really work hard to listen to our employees to find out, what do you need? How can we do this safely? Help us figure out how to design, engineer out, you know, the things that may hurt somebody. And so we work really hard at that. And that commitment from leadership all the way through, you know, it's really hard to try to make a change if the people above you aren't on board.
Right.
Right? It's like you're fighting City Hall, right? And so it's very important, and that's the beauty of what we do is everybody's...
So are there rules, like if you see something, you have to say something?
Yeah, we talk about see something, say something, do something, you know? So it's a lot of brothers keeper, you know, we're looking out for each other. And so, you know, we talk a lot about that. We have little meetings before the shift where the whole crew comes together. We talk about safety before we even start work.
Could they walk out on that floor with a phone? How does that work?
No, there's when they're working, there's no phone usage. Yeah.
I've been out there. You've given me the tour. It's incredible to see. It's just like a huge fire melting steel.
Yeah. Electric arc furnace is an incredible machine. My first experience, the first memory I have in the steel mill was probably a week into it. The supervisor said, "Hey, I want you to go with Joe and we're going to get down to the melt shop and do a job." And we had to work like right behind the electric arc furnace, the furnace that you saw. And I had never seen one. So in those days, we didn't get a tour or anything. So I never saw this thing until I went to work on it. Okay. And so we went in the building. And before we went in the building, Joe said to me, he said, "Hey, kid, when we get up there, we get on the deck." He said, "You stay right in my hip pocket. As long as you stay in my hip pocket, you'll be good." And I'm thinking, "Oh, okay. I wonder what this is all about." So we go into the building and it is so loud, you can't hear. Up the steps, we get to the top. Joe just breaks the crest and right toward the furnace. And when I got there, I broke the crest. I looked and I saw this thing, and it's electric arc furnace, and it's melting scrap, and there's just stuff flying out of it, fire, smoke, everything. It looked like it was blowing apart. And everything in me was like, you shouldn't be walking toward this, And so I froze. I just stood there. And then I remembered what Joe said, just stay in my hip pocket and you'll be okay. Well, he's already halfway across the floor, so I got to run after him, to catch up with him. And I went home that day and I thought, man, what in the world did I get into? And a couple days later, I was down there working and I'm looking at everything and I'm understanding more about what we're doing and everything. And I'm thinking, this is the most incredible job ever. Like, this is so cool. And then you start thinking about, steel and what that means to our country. It's literally the backbone of our infrastructure. Yeah. I tell people, you stand anywhere and do a 360. You just looked at a bunch of things that have steel in it. It's everywhere. And to be a part of that is pretty cool. So that's stayed with me to this day. I go up and see the electric arc furnace today. I get the same feeling as I did then.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
great.
It's
been a good career.
It has been, yeah. It's been good.
So you've lived here in Roanoke for about 9 or 10 years, has it been?
Not quite. It's about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah.
So do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah? What do you love about it?
Well, I'm an outdoorsman, so I love to hike. I've done a lot of hiking, like in the Rocky Mountains. We did backpacking. My son and I did backpacking in Rocky Mountains and things like that. So, and I grew up in Pennsylvania, so very similar as far as the land and so outdoors, hiking, hunting, fly fishing. These are things that I just love.
Yeah.
The peacefulness of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I love the area. I love Roanoke. Roanoke has a lot of neat things, but it feels like a small town.
Yeah.
It's just a great place for families. We came here with the idea of, okay, we need to think about, it won't be too long. We need to think about where we're going to go to when we retire. I think we're going to stay here.
This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is it.
So where do you like to eat? Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Okay, so lunch, you will find me
Mac and Bob's.
Mac and Bob's.
I've seen you there plenty of times.
Yes, or Martin's.
Martin's, yeah.
Yes, those two are my go-tos. So, I walk into there and they pretty much set my drink on the table and know what I'm ordering. They don't even give me a menu. So, but that, and then for dinner, Frankie Rollins and Billy's. So the Frankie Rollins in Salem, since I'm over that way, we try to support the ones that are right there. So that Frankie Rollins in Salem, we like to go there, and Billy's. We use Billy's a lot, as for the business. So we come out there and do a lot at both Frankie Rollins also.
You like a good steak.
Love steak.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Talk to me a little about the changes in the industry. There just seems to be such a push right now for young people in manufacturing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, there is a great opportunity for young people. And especially when it comes to the trades, you know, for over 10 years, I've seen this trend where it's getting more and more difficult to find people, you know, electrical technicians, you know, mechanics.
Folks are retiring.
Yeah. And so it's getting hard to find those people with those skill sets. We came down here and right away I started asking some questions and I started hearing a lot of really good things about Virginia Western. Mm-hmm. So we do a program with Virginia Western, an apprenticeship, mechatronics, where people come in and they work at the mill for a period of time during the week, and then they go to school and come out of there with a degree. We've really worked with Virginia Western, buying equipment and things for them to help with that schooling. And people come out of that 2-year program. They come in, they plug right in, and that has been a huge success. But that's the trend, is that, you know, for a long time, people were just jumping over those 2-year degrees and going to get 4-year degrees. Everybody was getting a 4-year degree, right? And so these technical fields, you know, there was a lull there, and there was way more demand than there was supply. And so that's the way we addressed it. And I tell people all the time, if you have a young person that's coming up in your family and they're trying to figure out what to do, if they have the ability to work with their hands, or, you know, inclined to electrical or mechanical or something like that, you can write your ticket. There's jobs everywhere. Good
paying jobs.
Yes, very good paying jobs.
And benefits.
Yeah. And when I started in the steel industry, you know, I started there on the electrical side. And, you know, I had 2 years of school. The cost wasn't nearly what a 4-year degree was.
Sure.
I had my bills paid. I was making more money than most of my friends that had a 4-year degree.
Yeah, they graduated.
I was making more money, and I had no debt.
Right.
You know, and so it was, you know, it turned out to be great for me. But, you know, my pathway was a little difficult, but it was great for me. But that's the trend I see in manufacturing in general, is those technical jobs are getting more difficult. And I think these types of programs, like what we did with Virginia Western, that's an answer. It's worked really great for us.
That's huge. So in talking about young people, I know we've talked a little bit about some of the lessons you learned from your dad. What would you tell someone as far as advice for someone coming up, in terms of like leadership advice, or, you know, anything to kind of help them on their path?
Yeah. One of the things that I would tell leaders is, hire well. Take your time in hiring. Don't settle. Even if it takes you a lot longer, and even if it creates a lot of discomfort because you don't have a position filled. Take your time, get the right people. One of the keys to our business is right people in the right places doing the right things. And so you need to hire the right kind of people. That's big. And then the other side of it, which is often difficult for people to do, is to quickly address poor performance. I believe that the number one reason for poor morale in most companies is poor leadership not addressing poor performance quickly. Because your best people make you. As a leader, you really need to support your people, because, you know, your leadership is dependent upon the people that are doing the jobs, and you need to support them. And your your best people want you to address the people that aren't pulling their share of the load.
Sure.
And when that doesn't happen, it lowers the standard for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's when poor morale comes in, because the people that are really doing the great job, they don't feel respected. You know, they're going the extra mile. Mm-hmm. They're doing all the things they're asked to do and then some. They're always there. When you pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some extra help, they are there, always. And those are the people that make you. And so it's...
So do those tough conversations get any easier, or is it just part of it?
You know, I believe it always needs to be a little difficult. You're dealing with people.
Yeah.
People are important. Mm-hmm. You know, if that gets too easy, I think you lost your humanity somewhere along the line. So it should always be difficult. And, you know, but it's also important, and important also for the other person, you know, and it's, you know, you got to sit down and have those conversations. You got to make sure you understand their perspective too before you make decisions.
Sure. If you're not doing them any favors by withholding the feedback.
Right. Yeah. And that I think is really important, is give people honest feedback. Again, way back to my dad. Tell the truth even when it hurts.
Yeah.
It's even in that. Mm-hmm. You know, it's because people need to hear the areas where they need to improve. They need to hear that. And, you know, I think as a leader, we're there to help people be the best that they could be. God made them to do things a certain way, and we can help foster that and make that, you know, my heart is always like, for my team, I want my team to be successful. Like, I want them to do well for them and for their family, mm-hmm. you know. Yeah, and I think I think of our group of people out there, almost 500 people. That represents like 500 families. So safety always has to be important, because they need to go home to those families.
That's right.
They have a role that they play within that family that is critical. They need to go home. Safety's always got to be there. And then the other side is, we run a business. For this business to be here for the long haul, we got to make a profit. We got to make money. That's what keeps it here for the long haul. And why do we have to do that? We have to do that because we have 500 families that are depending upon these jobs. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I watched a lot of steel companies fail because they lost sight of the fact that they were a business designed to make money. And if they made money, they would be around for the families. I talk about a lot of times, you know, what do we do? Well, we make steel. I'm like, well, we actually are here to make money. We make steel to make money, right? And by making money, we're taking care of all of our shareholders, taking care of our employees, we're taking care of our customers. All those things need to be attended to well to make money. So you got to take care of people. You got to take care of customers. You got to take care of the community. You know, you got to do all these things really well. And if you do them really well, this business is going to be here for the long haul. And so I have a drive that I think is in me because I saw those things. You know, I saw where companies didn't do well, and then families are without jobs.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's disruptive and hard.
Sure. Wow. So much great information. I would say that you should write a book, but you've already written two. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been so much fun.
Well, I've enjoyed it. It's been a great conversation.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining us today for our very first podcast. If you're interested in learning about the Chamber, we'd love to have you as a member. So check out our website and look for a podcast every month. This has been brought to you by the Salem-Roanoke County Chamber and Red Velocity. Thanks for joining us.